Okay, I think I'm just gonna start and just let people come in slowly. It's a little bit of a complicated subject matter today, you know, but nevertheless, welcome everybody on this Saturday afternoon. Thank you for being with us. First, let me just introduce myself and introduce my fellow panelists, and then we get on with the program. So this is the continuation of the Art Moments conversation series. And I think there are quite a number of conversations we are having. This particular one, um, I think it's quite special because NFT is quite close to the hearts of a lot of artists and galleries and curators and museum people these days. And everyone is either a lover or a hater of it, but everyone is curious, I think. And we want to get deep today. Okay, before I start with the topic introduction, then let me introduce myself. I'm Kai Hori. I'm from Singapore. So I'm doing this from Singapore, as is Catherine. And I'm the artistic director of Art Moments Jakarta, I think since 2 years ago. Um, Unfortunately, we haven't had the chance to work on or at least I haven't had the chance to work on the art fair in the physical form in Jakarta. So because of the pandemic, so right now it's online. I'm also the director of Chan and Hori Contemporary in Singapore, as well as the president of the Singapore Art Galleries Association. And I'm also a curator. So I'm a curator first, galleries later. We have with us also Deti, who is a very close friend of artists in Indonesia, and she collects art as well. And Deti is trained as an architect, and she used to work in as a creative director uh, in a, how do I say, like an agency, creative agency for many years. Yeah, so pretty much retired, enjoying her life around artists and art. And then we have Catherine Ng. So Catherine is a really special guest. I feel very happy to have her with us. Catherine is from Tezos Asia Pacific. So Catherine is the marketing head for Tezos. Not easy to get people like this on your Zoom. And of course, Catherine comes with experience in various industries. I think she's worked with Grab before, with Sephora, LVMH. So I think Catherine, I don't think my introduction will be sufficient, but I will let you continue that introduction when we begin. And of course, we have Ruan, also very, very special person that I just discovered through Art Moments. And Ruan is a Dutch Moluccan, a Dutch Indonesian, right? And he has been nominated for Oscars and also nominated for BAFTA as a sound designer. And I think Ruan has been in the NFT game. In fact, has been one of the, I think, leaders or uh, change makers. I would say in the NFT sphere, at least in Indonesia and Southeast Asia, for longer than uh, most of us, I think, like since the mid 2010s, something like that, right? And okay, today's topic, uh, decentralized, not democratized NFTs. So today's topic is a little bit complicated because we are not going to talk about the basics of NFT. We're not going to say what is an NFT, how do you mint an NFT, how do you sell an NFT. We take it that everyone attending here knows all of that already, right? So we're going to get into something a little bit more philosophical and a little bit more technical today, because in general, the impression that NFTs bring is that NFT allows artists to work in a more democratic space, meaning they can hold more responsibility, more control over the art that they show. They get to reach out directly to collectors, to their audience, without an intermediary such as the galleries or the art dealer or the auction house, which actually now it's already happening, right? Auction houses are entering the space already. Um, and also this idea of decentralization, which is brought upon, of course, by cryptocurrencies such as Tezos. It's like decentralized finance. So we are not using fiat, we are not using dollar, but we're using digital money, which is again something that is debatable. It's every day if you log on Twitter, there's the naysayers, there's the lovers of cryptos, and every day there's argument, like millions of arguments about cryptos all over the world. But it is still here, and it has been around for quite some time already. When I say quite some time, I realize, that when we speak about cryptocurrencies and NFTs, I realized last night that when we say long time ago in NFT context, long time ago is like 5 years ago, or 3 years ago, or even 1 month ago, where in the traditional world, it would equate to 30 years ago or 50 years ago. That is how fast, NFT community and cryptocurrencies move, and technology uh, uh, that is attached to it is advancing just as fast. So I want to start by asking a question to all our panelists. Okay, you guys can choose who wants to respond to this. So this idea of democratization or democracy uh, is something that a lot of artists think they will get, through utilizing the NFT platform or showing their art through an NFT platform. And we've seen NFTs at least from early this year, taking the highlights of the art world, the financial world as well. Uh, do you think this democratization is real and it's true? Like, if any of you want to respond to this, and speakers, please turn on your mics. Yeah, yes, Catherine.
Okay, so I would say that yes, it has led to democratization of access to artists, especially up and coming artists. And also it's enabled artists themselves to connect with their communities in a more direct way, without having to, engage galleries. If they choose to do so, they still can. I still see that sort of behavior happening in the NFT space, but it enabled artists, especially more like millennial ones, to really come to the fore. Yeah. I'm thinking the crypto art.
What's interesting, actually, we had a conversation earlier, I mean, before this particular Zoom with everybody. And Catherine, you mentioned that, this idea of democracy or democratization, technically in any democracy, there is still governance. There is a sort of a someone that holds the central power, and then democracy is decided by collective votes, right? So
Mm.
this is not a free for all. Democracy on NFT doesn't mean suddenly everybody just go wild, do whatever they want, right? So how is that? How does democracy or democratization exist within this space?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Kai. And for me, I interpret democracy as just equal access and people actually being able to have a say. But within a democracy, like you said, there's always like centralized authorities, and how much of a say, how much of a share of voice these people get to have, that's another question mark. And in terms of like tokenization models, democratization, I would say, is more relevant to tokenized art funds, where you can fractionalize pieces of art through like you say, like a REIT type of model, trust fund model, whereas you have in the NFT space non-fungible tokens that are completely unique and directly tied to the art ownership without having to go through a fund. And that's where I see more of the decentralization happening. But correct me if I'm wrong. I'm happy to hear your ideas, like especially Rowan. I know he has a lot of thoughts on this.
Yeah, I also want to go to Ruan because for everybody's information, Ruan was also a miner. So he used to mine Ethereum as well. So technical knowledge, he is up there. So maybe Ruan, you can share with us your idea of what.
Thank you, Kai, for
Yeah.
that quick intro background. So yeah, I mined Ethereum for I think 5 years, and when you mine a cryptocurrency, any cryptocurrency, you quickly learn about governance, and you learn about rules essentially, because every blockchain has its rules. And of course, as a miner, you want to find the most profitable one that will make you the most bang for buck. Now, for me, it's okay for us to talk about different blockchains. If it's not, please stop me. So, when I was mining Ethereum for 5 years, I quickly realized that the people with the most Ethereum, they have a lot of say in what happens in the blockchain and in the Ethereum blockchain. And in a blockchain like Ethereum, I the democratization isn't the same, and I'm sorry I have to go here, as for example in Tezos. In Ethereum, it's a very much top to bottom. So I'll give an example. There, because people who hold more coin or tokens from that particular blockchain have more say. The way Ethereum was built was, if they decide that the blockchain should do this, this, and this, and everyone else said, no, this is a bad idea, because they hold the most Ethereum, they can decide where the blockchain is headed. So essentially in Ethereum, that means a hard fork. And what happens in a hard fork is that um, everyone else gets left behind, and the people who have the most coin decides that the blockchain has to go this way. So if we're going to do this. If you don't like it, too bad, you're going to leave. So to me, that doesn't translate as democratized, because it doesn't give power to the people. It gives power to the people who have the most coin, who have the most say. Where you go to a blockchain like Tezos, it's different, because the way the blockchain is built, and I know we'll get to this, I'm sorry if I'm skipping, but it's proof of stake versus proof of work. And we can get into this later, but essentially you cannot hard fork. That's how the theory is. So the way it works is that you cannot put in more that you already have. And what that does is it creates less rewards for well, there are no miners because there are no proof of work, but it creates less rewards, less gains as people would see it, but it creates more decentralization. But that doesn't mean that the nodes don't get rewarded for it. In fact, the way I see the Tezos blockchain is built is it incentivizes people to verify the transactions and verify the block. Whereas in Ethereum, because of the proof of work model, there's more incentive to hack. Whereas in Tezos, because of the proof of stake model, there's less incentive to hack. So I don't want to get too technical on the details, but essentially, different blockchains have different levels of what I see decentralization and democratization. Hope that
Thank
answers
you,
your
Ruan.
question.
So, I mean, it's quite complicated if you're not so familiar with how cryptocurrencies work. But it is an exciting space. Like when I first found out about it, I had to read a lot to catch up. But I want to continue with democratization, and I'm going to ask Deti because she's the friend of the artist. So, artists are always, whether traditional, in the traditional art world, whether you are painting, making sculptures, and now with NFTs, one of the, of course, very important element of making art is the economy. Artists need uh, currency, they need cash, they need income to survive, to continue their work. And a lot of criticism on NFT or on art as NFTs has been that these artists are just out there to make quick money, and actually they are not really interested in this democratization or decentralization. Like they see they can make money there. Is it true that is the feeling that way?
Um, I'm not going to say that that's what every NFT collectors are doing.
Or artists that you know?
Right. Um, but I do, based on my observation in certain platforms or marketplaces, is that I assume that they're probably old players or cryptocurrency traders who maybe see the NFT as also investments. Because I see, this is talking about democratization, right? Because in certain platforms, I see that artists that are being featured are always people with, really, really big names. So it's not like everybody can enter. It's not like once you mint, your artwork, then you're going to be seen in certain platforms. It's not like that. And then I saw that when these big names, right, had their drops in certain platforms, some big players would buy these NFTs, and then within minutes, it's back in the marketplace, the secondary marketplace. Those are the flippers, right? But I know that the majority of people, especially maybe people like me who just entered this, I just started collecting NFTs, are people who don't have millions and millions of dollars or Ethereums to spend, or even Tezos in this case. So I don't know. That's what I mean. I think in any aspects, right? There's always a group of people who would maximize on whatever. Just like Juan said earlier, when we talk about the technology, this thing is unbreakable, but there's always some people who would try to break it, right? So yeah, that's just it.
Yeah, but what
I don't flip anyway.
Yeah, but what is interesting there? I mean, you mentioned flipping. People who buy NFTs and then immediately put it back on the market. People who are in it because they are trying to invest. They're just looking at it as investment and not really the art. Because there's NFTs with sports also, right? There's NFTs with so many other different genres or different things. What's interesting to me here is how the blockchain makes everything quite transparent. So you might not know who bought it, but you know that it has been sold. It is in the holding of this particular wallet somewhere, which also, in terms of transparency, can see the marketplace without any mystery. In the traditional art market, right, it's very mysterious. Previously,
it's very opaque, but
before NFT became fashionable, people would come to me and ask, how do you price a painting? How does the price go up? And then who is holding, where is this painting right now? Who bought it for how much? And if there's like behind closed door type of private sales, nobody knows. Like if the work actually has been bought and sold several times before it reappears again in the market, no one knows. The deal happened in the back. But with NFTs, with blockchains, with cryptos, it's right out there. When the money moves, everybody sees it. In fact, the artists, through the smart contracts, they get a cut of every resale, which is very good. It's like you get a royalty. So artists today have to be very, when they enter NFTs, they have to be very aware of the marketplace. In fact, this is an actual marketplace because the cryptos are linked to stock exchange, to crypto exchange, and then there's actual contracts that artists have to sign, and things like that. Do you think that this will take away that opacity, or the art market will have to, the traditional art market will have to respond, also to become less opaque and then more and more transparent?
Yes.
Yeah.
Answer is yes.
You think there'll be pressure on them to be more and more transparent?
Yeah, I do. Well, I think that's the right thing to do, to be transparent in all these. I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty new in the scene compared to, how some people are probably art collectors since, I don't know, 20 years ago, but I am pretty new in the scene. But that's what I observe too. And I feel that there's this, you buy paintings, for example, you buy paintings from galleries, right? If you wanna say get to know the artist, or say the other way around, the artist asks, so who bought my painting? Usually galleries, some galleries at least, would say, well, no, you can't know that.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I know why it happened, but I believe that there should be more transparency in the art world.
There is one question I want to ask Catherine or Ruan on this. There's one question that I have been asking, and actually many artists I work with have been asking. When can we mint or attach smart contracts to physical art? When can we do that? Do you see that happening soon, or can that already happen now?
That's
and then
already happened. That's already happened, and I've seen it. The NFT space is a lot active on Discord, Clubhouse. It's not surprising that, and Twitter, but to me, it's not surprising that the active NFT community are in platforms where people can speak, not necessarily video, but speak. And for me, that goes back to the transparency. There's a lot you can tell about a person from their voice. You can tell their intentions, you can tell their influence, you can tell their background a bit, you can tell how heavy they are, maybe. There's a lot you can tell about a person from their voice. And in the NFT space, we value authenticity. So in terms of physical work, I was in a room once, and there was a collector in the Americas, and he had a few Picasso paintings. And he asked the question, can I sell my Picasso painting as an NFT? And so a lot of people, had negative comments. This was a few months ago, and they said, no, how dare you? That's the estate's work. You don't have distribution rights, blah, blah, blah. And he said, no, I'm not selling the photo. I'm selling the physical piece as an NFT. But I only want to sell a bit of the physical piece. Like, let's say if the Picasso painting was, I don't know, 40 centimeters, let's just say 1 by 2 meter, then he would sell maybe 1 by 1 or 10 by 10 centimeters or something like that. And he would tokenize it. And he would say, you can buy this token as an NFT and say you own a piece of a Picasso. Who wouldn't want to say that? I own a piece of Picasso. It doesn't matter how small it is. It doesn't matter if it's 0.1 centimeters, and he makes an NFT out of it, and he attaches a contract and says, if you buy this NFT, you will own this much of a physical Picasso. And people will say, yeah, I can do that. Another case I've seen, and a lot of people do this, is that they make the physical piece and they actually sell the physical piece as a token in the NFT. So the NFT is nothing more than a contract that says, I will send you the physical piece. But even more than that, I've seen people create physical pieces and then take it to the digital world and then burn the physical piece. And then they say, this is what remains of the physical piece. This digital token, this digital file, this token that is attached to this digital file is the only thing that remains of this physical piece. Just imagine, and I imagine someone will do this one day, take a famous painter and take his artwork, and let's say Picasso, because he made, lots. Let's say you burn one, and as you're burning it, you make a video. And then you make that as an NFT and you say, this is the last footage of this Picasso. And this is the token that says that you own this footage. I guarantee you that footage is going to sell more than whatever the collector bought that Picasso for. Because, now we see the value of this digital file and the tokenizing of this digital file, because digital files in itself has no value, but tokenizing it is a whole different story. Sorry,
Yeah,
jump.
no, thank you,
What
thank you.
happened?
I just want to make because you mentioned Picasso, right? Not, I hope many people here know this, but when Picasso died, he actually left behind more than 40,000 artworks. And why I want to mention this is that cryptocurrencies are designed in a way where there is a finite amount, like how many bitcoins there will be, how many tezos, or how many whatever, Tron or ADA or whatever it is in the market circulating and everything. But for the Picasso, it's quite sneaky, because when he died, he left behind 40 over thousand works, but no one knows how many of these works have already been in the market, because it's inherited by his children and his children, and they are not revealing how many more they have in storage, because it will impact the price and the circulation. And I think it's kind of like, this is one of the things I feel a lot of us see mirroring of traditional market movements or market character with NFT characters. Like the NFT world is not so different actually from traditional like art world. A lot of the issues we have with conservation, we will have with digital works that are on NFTs and all these things. Um, I want to move on, and again, but still on this decentralized, democratized, right? Auction houses, uh, art galleries. In Berlin, Koenig Gallery have started showing NFTs. In US also with Kenny Schechter and all these guys. Uh, how does this then impact this whole ideology of decentralized and democratized, or is that part of it? Because technically, you know anybody, as long as you follow the rule, right, you can participate. Because I know that right now a lot of art galleries are hesitant to participate in this space, because they feel that the crypto and NFT world is cannibalizing or destroying, or is the antithesis of the gallery culture. you know how would, let's say, somebody for something like Tezos work with, do you see yourself in the future working with an auction house and galleries more?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Kai, and very insightful. Very insightful uh, observations from the art world. And I'm so excited to be on this panel because I'm hearing firsthand like how art galleries operate, what's the process is like. For Titles, we are actually working with global brands. So we've announced a global partnership with and Red Bull Racing, F1 Racing, and then we've also announced NFT platform partnership with One Off. So we have these record companies, the music companies and music record companies, and they're coming together to mint NFTs based on royalties of their artists' music. And they want to make the music more accessible to the fans. So this music rights include like B-rolls, that stuff that you don't see once the final track is out, but it's like behind the scenes stuff. But people want to sometimes own a piece of that action, that art, or that music record. So that's something we're seeing trending in our space. We have brands creating NFT experiences. Like Red Bull was really into curating fan art or like swag in NFT form. And I feel like in terms of other auction houses coming in, there's Christie's with their auction of people's artwork at 69 million. So I see there's a trend that some art houses and galleries embrace when it comes to blockchain technology. Like, okay, let's experiment with it and let's see how far we get with it. On the other hand, there's also brands jumping into the mix. McDonald's did their own NFT. I think Pizza Hut also jumped in the fray, and Taco Bell NFT their own taco. They've created very interesting marketing campaigns out of it, and that's something I'm excited to see as a marketer. Sound composers as well. So like Ruan, he did the charity fundraiser for Kara in Nanggala for O2 and for their families. And I thought that was such an amazing cause to support. And that's why I see the democratization coming in, because it enabled artists to kind of just promote their own cause and work together with whoever they want to work with, really, and create like that authentic voice of theirs, like really help expand their creativity and through innovating technology. And when you mentioned, Kai, about how it's becoming more transparent with blockchain artwork being discovered, then in the financial markets we call this price discovery. So it's like, oh, I know what the price of this stock actually is. It's not confined to maybe the German stock exchange anymore. Like all the crypto exchanges can see it, and it's 24/7 as well. So I feel that yes, there's going to be certain behaviors and trends that will translate from the traditional artwork into NFTs, because you're going to have all these like artwork, physical artworks that people may not want to disclose, and until you disclose it, yeah, but people may not know, but people will be more incentivized to, as things become more transparent, to look for these artists or artwork and put it on the blockchain and create this price discovery for everyone to see and make the art market a bit more liquid. Yeah, because now it's a little bit hard to kind of transport physical artwork. Like, I want a piece of that, but how are you gonna like physically like cut out the Picasso painting, 1/10 of it, but I own it, you know? So an NFT is a great representation of ownership of that. Yeah. So that's where I see them.
I think, you know, that's great, right? I also think, you know, this whole, not just the transparency of the blockchain, but the fact that the blockchain exists as a ledger entry, right? You know, like all these NFTs, they exist as ledger. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they are ledgers. And one problem we have in the art world, in the traditional art world, is archiving. Technically, you know, putting artworks into ledgers. So for example, in my experience as a curator, right, when I want to, let's say, make a catalog resonate, which is the full catalog of an artist, you know, everything he or she has ever made in his or her lifetime, or putting together a retrospective of a senior artist, you know, in the museum, and then you go on like, yeah, where is this work? You know, and like where, like there was I saw this thing like 10 years ago in Thailand or something like that. Now, who owns it now? Like, where is this thing? You know, like, does it really exist? You know, and I feel that in the when artists mint or tokenize or attach their physical artwork as well as the digital artwork to a smart contract, it helps in the recording of everything that he or she has ever made, you know, whether it gets sold or not, because it's on the ledger, right? And then when curators like me, 30 years down the road, want to curate your show, you know, like 30 years of this particular artist's practice, I just need to see the ledger and say, look, this person has made 20,000 works, and the works were made on this date, what material, blah, blah, blah.
Wow.
So I'm excited to see, you know, currencies like Tezos, since you are so now popular amongst artists, you know, being a green currency, proof of stake, you know, the cool one, you know, not expensive, very easy. So Tezos has allowed artists to collect other artists' work, you know, whereas before it's so expensive, and then gas fee is almost like nothing compared to Ethereum. You know, will Tezos go all the way into the art world, you know, and not just wait for the art world to go to you?
Yeah, that's definitely yeah, super good question. We're definitely all for advocating for sustainability in blockchain design, and as Rowan mentioned, the proof of stake network, it really helps with energy efficiency, and that's why we're able to keep the gas costs, the transaction costs low. So for artists, it only costs a few cents to mint versus Ethereum. I think, yeah, like 200, almost $1,000 is what I heard in terms of transaction fees. So that's enabled adoption, and it's enabled artists to kind of mint their own artwork on Tezos and then advocate for other artists too. That's how I became an art collector, because my behavior previously was just visit galleries and gawk at the art and wonder how much it costs, and probably out of my price range. But it's enabled me to, with crypto art anyway and NFTs, I'm able to say like, oh yeah, I want to buy this, like this piece, this digital art piece, and like I can like, I own it. Wow, it's just, it gives me this sense of accomplishment. And I do support Asian artists, so that's my philosophy. And I definitely we want to keep doing more in this space, especially for the APAC region. Like I'm very pro Asian artists, so like, you know, come to me if you want. Yeah.
Any opinions on that, Ruan? Because you're super familiar with the, not just the blockchain, but also the lifetime of the ledger, these ledgers of storage and stuff like that.
I think it's very interesting that you mentioned the ledger aspect of it, Kai, because essentially when people think about blockchain, a lot of people, they think about, sorry to say, money, you know, but and how to make a quick buck maybe, or you know, how do I get in on this? Essentially, what you're investing in is the ledger. You know, imagine a world where everyone, you can see all the art pieces. Imagine if all the art NFTs were minted on one blockchain, just giving a scenario. And then you see everything. You can see everything, how much it was sold for, who owns it, maybe not the person, but you see the wallet address. You can see how much that wallet address has, how much artwork that wallet address has collected. And a lot of the times in the blockchain world, we would show who owns the wallet address. It might be a collector, it might be a group of collectors, a DAO, it might be another artist, but you could see all of that. I think there's value in that. I think the reason why there's massive adoption for Tezos NFT artists is because, like you said, in Asia, a lot of people can't afford to pay $35, $50, $100, 200 to make one, to list one art piece. That sort of defeats the purpose. If you're selling NFTs for 10,000 bucks, then people don't care about $50 transaction fees. But if your NFT is much cheaper, that doesn't mean it's less valuable. It just means it's cheaper. Then of course it doesn't make sense to pay more transaction fees than what it's music. If I pay this new NFT platform that Catherine was talking about, musics go for $6, $10. It doesn't make sense to pay $30 transaction fees for a $10 album, you know? So I think that's why a lot of artists are coming with adoption. And to touch a bit on your previous questions with galleries, or maybe even music labels, you know, since we're talking about music, I think there is room for art galleries and these brands to come in and help artists. I think that's part of it. I don't think it takes away from it, because you say for decentralization, yes, we need to adhere by the rules. But as we all know, in real life, people can bend the rules. In the blockchain, you cannot bend the rules. If you bend the rules, the blockchain won't work for you. It'll work against you. And it'll say, sorry, you can't mint, or you can't do this, or you can't, you know, this transaction, you can't do that. So it's much harder and much less corruptible, much harder to corrupt and less corruptible. So people, they don't put faith in other people. The program isn't biased, you know, it isn't even biased towards its creator. It's just a set of rules. That's how it is. So yeah, that's, sorry to touch on the
No, perfect. One of the things I want to expand on that, right? You know, like when we put stuff on the ledger, there's also this phenomenon where the artist or the owner could burn the NFT. You know, we all talk about creation, minting, and all this, but there's the other reality, not just burning the physical work, but burning the NFT itself. Meaning, what you make it disappear. You know, it's not even destroying. You literally, what is the perfect word for? I can't even find a word for it.
Yeah, you
You burn it. Yeah, you magically make it disappear. Uh, uh, so do artists, you yourself, you know, as an artist, do you, Ruan, do you feel fear sometimes that somebody might buy your work and then one day decide, okay, I'm done with this, or I want to kill this work so that there will be lesser work from Ruan in the market, therefore his price will go up and I can make more money if I.
No, I think that's a completely legitimate. If we really talk about decentralization, then you have to give the person that power. Otherwise, you're not really decentralized, are you? It could happen in the real world, but in the real world, people are less likely to do that, maybe because it's physical. It's much easier to delete, press 2 clicks, and then delete something than to get rid of something physical.
Start a fire, right?
So, but it happens like you said earlier about the Picasso. They're not letting know how much work because they're afraid that it will affect the price. Well, in the blockchain, everyone knows how much tokens there are, So when you say there's going to be less tokens of something and people already know how much there are, it automatically increases the value. Especially, for example, Kadeti collected one of my work, and then let's say I have 5 and she collected 2. I burned the other 3. That means she is the sole collector of that artwork. It's a strategy that a lot of people use because, well, the thing about the blockchain is sometimes you make mistakes and you cannot rewrite the mistake. You cannot edit what's written onto the ledger, but you can burn it and then upload again, So uploading the same work twice isn't really it's not ethical. I think there's a question of ethics, but when you commit to that one work, one mint, no matter how many editions you make, but one mint, and then you burn, I think that's the way we see the use case of burning. I think creators can use it to strategize. I think collectors can do just what you said. Maybe they don't like the artist and they buy it and burn it. If you have the luxury to do that, that's fine. I have the right to smash my TV if I don't like it, but that's I like my TV, so I'm not gonna do it. I have the right to burn my shoes.
I think yes.
Or to throw that album that my ex gave me because I don't like the song anymore, So I think
So
burn something physical at one point.
yeah. In NFT, everything seems, or in the NFT format, everything seems deliberate and strategic. So even when you burn, it is part of a strategy, either to increase the price or to make it more scarce. It's sad to say, in the traditional art world, artworks sometimes are destroyed not with deliberate intent, but because of neglect. For example, you buy a painting and then you put it in the storage, and then years and years, and you even forgot you bought that painting, or you bought too many paintings, you just like put it there. And then one day, when you retire, you say, okay, now I want to open this storeroom and look at what I have. And then you realize that they have all been eaten by termites, or they've melted away or grew mold, and things like that. And then at this same way, you still lose the art, because now you can't exhibit it, you can't display it. To restore, sometimes it's almost impossible to restore, things like that. So it happens in the traditional art world as well. I mean, of course there are people who deliberately destroy artworks, physical artworks, but there are those that by accident didn't realize they've been neglecting the work. So I guess it needs commitment, whether in the digital world, in the NFT world, or in the traditional world. When you acquire an artwork, it's like you are adopting a baby, right? You want to look after the baby, and you want to see it grow, whether monetarily, or grow with you, or your feelings grow with it, or something like that. um, there's also this concern, with cryptos and with NFTs, because they are interlinked, of course. Environmental concerns, like Ruan, you spoke about it a little earlier, on Ethereum proof of work versus like Tezos proof of stake, and I think we sort of know this, have an idea of this technically. I want to ask that the moral viewpoint of you know, when because there are people who I think collect NFTs not just because it is art, but because it is environmentally friendly, let's say, or it serves a certain purpose or cause or something like that.
Okay, I think in that case, because this technology is still in its infancy, right? Um, Say if you're talking about Ethereum right now, with their proof of work system of working, hopefully they're going to be releasing a more environmental friendly system soon, right? And adopt the proof of stake technology. So I think the idea of like blockchain technology, right? I believe in it, but I know it can. It's since it's still new right now. So yes, there's a lot of things that's not working ideally, maybe. So yeah, I mean, everybody as collectors, I think, or even artists, right? Um, they have the right to choose which one that maybe suits them more. Some people who are very into, going doing everything green and environment friendly can choose certain platform over something else. But I also know that there are some artists in the Ethereum platform who are maybe putting in their smart contracts certain mechanisms, maybe that, sometimes in the description, it would say, this is to help offset the blah, 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 So I look for that too. If I'm browsing in the Ethereum platform marketplaces. So yeah.
And Catherine, you have shared with us. I think everybody here, when you buy NFTs, one of the factors that bring you to acquiring an artwork on NFT is the social kind of element, like a cause, right? Like what are these causes that you have supported through acquiring NFTs? I think this relates totally to social responsibility, right?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Kai. And yeah, with causes, officially in my work capacity, we're supporting Ruan's charity fundraiser in Indonesia as part of our Moments Jakarta's exhibition to fundraise for the 53 families of KRI Nanggala 402. So that I thought was a very interesting exhibition, the way Ruan did the NFT artwork. Like he layered over 53 different sounds and in the image of a digital image of a submarine. Yeah, so I was like, okay, let me go buy this. And that was like literally Ruan, my first NFT that I bought from an Asian artist. Yeah, that was like my first. And then I was like, okay, why not go along the theme of Asian art? So that's how I started curating more artwork from Hic et Non specifically, a Tesla's platform. And I did a tweet. I just said like, hey, I'm new to this space, but I want to collect Asian art from NFT artists. Can you recommend me some? And then suddenly you have artists like recommending me on my thread. My thread went viral. Like the community was just so supportive of one another. Artists supporting artists, artists buying other artists' art, advocating for other artists' cause, and I discovered like over 200 artists there just in one tweet. So like that was really really cool. Yeah.
And and on the flip side, right? Okay, I think I want to go a little bit to the dark side here. On the flip side, there are also detractors of cryptos and NFTs saying that this is a money laundering scheme. Like people buy NFTs because they want to wash their money. People use these currencies and all these contracts because the wallets are you know the address, but you don't know who really owns them, you know. And of course, art, whether NFT or not, has famously always been kind of have this dark side, right? Like you know,
Sure.
somebody pays 10 million for a painting, and then you wonder where that 10 million came from, really, and stuff like that. Do you think about these things as well, and how you deal
Mhm.
with it, you know, in your day to day?
Yeah, sure. That's a good question, Kai. So this one I have to put my industry outreach hat on, which so I sit on the board of Access and we liaise regularly with industry players on how is the industry moving forward to do transaction monitoring on the blockchain. And there are all these like technology vendors coming up, like Chainalysis and Elliptic, Merkle Science, just purely servicing exchanges and banks on like transaction monitoring, and then they'll flag like on a if they flag if they see something suspicious, they will of course have to implement KYC measures on
What is
the
that?
oh sorry,
What is
know your customer.
okay?
Yeah, it's so you have to disclose a name and a government ID tied to the wallet address you'll be using if you are going to start trading on or open an account on an regulated exchange. Yeah, so that's how they're doing it. It's part and parcel of the traditional banking world. You have
Mm,
to disclose your ID when you open a bank account.
mm,
Yeah, they're doing it in the crypto world as well. And let's see how far this goes, right? But the thing is, even in the real world, in cash, the fiat world, money laundering
yes.
hasn't gone away either. In fact, blockchain actually helps make the transactions more transparent. At least you can see there's some traceability, like you can trace at least one hop at least. So rather than not having any visibility at all when it's in cash. Yeah.
Mm. Anybody wants to comment more on this?
Okay, I want to comment. No, it just crossed my mind. You know how we can tokenize almost anything, and we talk about how the blockchain is, basically it's trustless, and then also, oh gosh, what else? But anyway, I was gonna say that something that we can't verify is actually someone's ethics.
Mm.
That's it, right? Yes, we can see the transactions, but we don't know what the intention is behind that one. That's something that until now can't be verified. So yeah, that just crossed my mind. I think talking about the money laundering and everything. Yeah, it is going on. Obviously, yes. Yeah, just like someone copycatting someone else's works.
Mm,
So,
yes. Yeah. So I mean, evil will exist, you know, if they want.
yes.
You know, like it's a difficult thing. I just want to take 1 minute to tell to inform everybody here that if you have any questions, please write it out in the chat. And you could ask in Bahasa Indonesia also. If you're not comfortable writing in English, we can translate it. Ruan speaks 5 languages, so he probably can speak in your language even. Anyway, so yeah, if you have questions, we're about 1 hour, almost 1 hour in to this session. So yeah, just drop your questions in the chat and we get to that. I want to ask, you know, that in the art world in general, there's this always artists wanting to have a sense of justice, fairness, you know, ethics and all this. But uh, right now, NFT platforms, there's many platforms to show your NFTs, but not many currencies are being used, you know, and there is a bias, right? Like for the fancy, more expensive platforms that uses Ethereum normally, there's this impression that the art is better there, you know, because the artists are more serious also because they are willing to pay $800 gas fee just to list their work, or like 500 US versus the other platform that costs you like $5 or whatever, you know, like much lesser. So this is a sort of a class divide, which in real world democracy is also a concern. You know, maybe Ruan, as an artist, you might want to comment on this class divide between NFT artists.
Yeah, stop me if I'm going too long, but I like to comment on this. There are people who think that Ethereum is the only blockchain or should be the only blockchain um, where NFT should be minted. And then when Ethereum gas fees go to 1,000 US, all these people shut up
Mm.
and they don't say anything because then all of a sudden it becomes too expensive even for them. You know, maybe they're willing to pay 200, but they're not willing to pay 1,000. And now people are minting NFTs on Bitcoin. So if you want to be, you know, Sultan, and you want to say, hey, let's go, then I would like to meet someone, an NFT collector who says, I only buy NFTs on Bitcoin. Well, good luck, buddy. But yeah, you know, so to me, I understand why people have that mentality, but it's a silly mentality. I don't think that cost ties in. I don't think cost is the same as value. Valuable things aren't always expensive. In fact, the most valuable things are free in my mind. Air is free, water isn't expensive, you know, electricity, internet. I could go on and on and on. Why is it that in art you have to make the transaction fees? Why does something have to be, not even the transaction fees, why does something have to be so expensive in order for it to be valuable? I think that's something that my generation start to see, that actually the most valuable thing isn't to have maybe a property. Maybe I want to go travel for a year and I could do that instead of staying in one place. And you know, I'm not saying which is right or wrong, but I'm just giving our perspective on it, you know. So when it comes to NFTs, I always tell people, just because you don't sell something or the transaction fees are low, you don't sell something for that much money, doesn't mean it's less valuable. You know, so everyone who tells me that Ethereum is the only blockchain where you should mint NFTs, to me, that's a silly thing. That's like saying, I only buy artwork if this bank is the transaction bank and not another. No one cares.
True.
They care about the art. They want to see the art. I don't care if you pay in USD or Indonesian rupiah or Singapore dollars. I don't care if you pay in gold, you know? So at the end of the day, to me, why not use something that takes much less energy and is much cheaper for both sides, not just for the artist, but for the collector. Now, that doesn't mean to say that I don't do stuff on Ethereum. I think the reason why people still mint on Ethereum is because it's old. And because it's old, there are a lot of developers who have had or done something on there. So there are a lot of applications that already existed and have had a much longer time for trial and error. Newer blockchains are going to get there, but don't be so quick to dismiss it and say, hey, I remember when I was buying Ethereum for $30, and now people who have just bought Ethereum for 1,000 think that they know more than people who have been in the game for a very long time. So yeah, to me, it gets on my nerves a bit, or I laugh when I see people, you know, saying stuff like that, Kai.
Cool. One of the ideas now that you've given me for post-pandemic, for artists, NFT artists in times of post-pandemic is this. You know, you there's something somewhere there where you mentioned about traveling, and like to use do you say that, like to use Bitcoin to travel? Or something about traveling. Anyway, the word travel is what I want to say. I hope that after the pandemic, all the world's artists, all these creative people who then can travel, world travel, because you can produce your art anywhere in the world because you are a digital artist. You know, I would like to meet, you know, NFT artists from all over the world in Singapore, you know, like in Jakarta, in Bangkok, you know, and then it's no longer just talking on Twitter and just you know, it's different when you meet in person, and then you can do residencies, you can work, you know, anywhere in the world you want, as long as you have access to internet to mint your work, And I think that gives a very exciting prospect. And then we could probably do exhibitions together. We could, physical exhibitions. We could have more discussions and stuff like that, and make the traditional artists jealous. Like because because if you're a painter, you're stuck in your studio. You can't always bring your canvas and oil paint out. But digital artists have that freedom, or most of them would have, right? I hope that would happen. Catherine, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, to add to your comment about enabling artist communities connect more at a global level. Like, totally agree with that. And I actually am looking forward to physical exhibitions, actually, from like online to offline, offline to online, whichever it is. Because yeah, in terms of what we value, really, is it power? Is it money? Like, look at Trump. I mean, as an example, like, people voted him in, power and money, but is that what our values resonate with? Like, and it's actually, to be honest, like, I feel that what's valuable is freedom of choice to choose the platform you want to work on, like what Deti said. Like, yeah, artists have the freedom to choose, and the more choice the better, I'd say, in terms of competition, and yeah, the ability to for the ability for consumers to, yeah, choose to buy whatever from whatever platform they choose to support. And usually in this age of conscious consumerism, people tend to want to go with a platform that actually supports Mother Earth, rather than damage it even more than it already is. Yeah, so it's more energy efficient, because we started off with proof of stake in 2017. I mean, we be back. So our community is actually really, really old. It's just that we don't really market ourselves as much. So like this year, since the NFT space has grown organically for us, we decided, like, hey, you know what, let's invest in this space. Yeah. So yeah, I expect to see more from NFT artists working in the Tesla ecosystem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I add something?
Yeah.
I don't know whether you're aware, but there's this NFT marketplace in Ethereum that, since I got quite a few NFTs in that platform, and then I just found out that I cannot sell them on secondary market now because I live in Indonesia. So the verification system that they have to verify sellers basically doesn't support Indonesia. Maybe not yet, but
oh, that's a pity.
But I think it will get there. Indonesia has a crypto exchange now.
I'm like, so what? I can only buy, but can't even sell anything whenever I want to. So, yeah, something I just found out. They're rolling that soon.
The other thing I would like to, like, aside from artists moving around in the world and then meeting each other and, being inspired by different places in the world, to work from, being very mobile, is also the commitment from museums and institutions, towards artists who are on the NFT platforms. Once upon a time, graffiti was not art. Once upon a time, street art was not art in the eyes of the museums and the eyes of the curators, in the eyes of all these super serious academic type people. And then suddenly now they are, so I think what's happening with NFT is kind of what happened in the history of art. It has always been like that, once upon a time, impressionists were just bad painters. Now they are the masters, right? Once upon a time, Marcel Duchamp was a con man. Once upon a time, all these kind of things. I personally am a little bit frustrated that it seems to me that museums and the art institutions in contemporary art world are not moving fast enough, to engage this whole thing, in the happening with NFT in the digital world, the blockchain, all of these things, because I think it could do a lot of good, especially for museums. Like we spoke about Ledger, for example. I mean, imagine if you are a museum in France, for example, right? Their national repository for art includes artwork the time of Napoleon and whatever, King Louis and blah, blah, blah. And at that time, there's a lot of these paintings. You don't even know how much it was bought for, when, and, now we have this facility with blockchains and ledger and, smart contracts. In fact, I think one of the benefits of smart contracts is that artists who mint their work, they basically enter into a smart contract. They don't need the lawyer anymore. The smart contract follows the DAO protocol. Maybe we should talk a little bit about DAO. I kind of missed that. We had this interesting thing. For those who do not know what a DAO, DAO, is, it's actually decentralized autonomous organization. And I will ask Ruan to share with us a little bit of how it works in a DAO and what it is similar to.
Okay, so I thought about this last night, the easiest way to explain a DAO. So imagine you have a vending machine, right? That sells Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Fanta, all the drinks you want, this one vending machine. Now imagine that, of course, when you put money into a vending machine, it gives you one of the drinks. But imagine that this vending machine, as you put money into it, because it's making a profit, it automatically orders new drinks. It automatically cleans itself, or it orders a technician to clean. And it does all these things without a management. It does it by itself, just this vending machine. So DAOs, these decentralized autonomous organizations, is a bit like that. The difference between a DAO and a normal organization is that in a decentralized autonomous organization, the set of rules are encoded, written, and set and seen on the blockchain. Plus, their transactions are all on the blockchain. So when we think about big organizations, right? I'm not going to mention any, but think about the biggest organization you can think of. Imagine if you could see all their transactions. That doesn't exist in the real world. Why? Corruption, money laundering, you spoke about earlier. Maybe they have shady investors. Maybe they pay less tax. We see news stories about richer people paying less tax, but apparently it's all legal. So now that changes the perspective of the people. But in a DAO, all the transactions are seen. And the DAO stands for something. For example, I'll give you an example. There's a DAO in the NFT space that collects only or exclusively Black art. So all the art from any Black history, they collect. And they're willing to put big money, big coin for that, because that's their purpose. No one can, the smart contract is written, they say, okay, once we put money in, no one can take it out. And when we collect it, we cannot sell the art again unless everyone agrees. So everyone can see what these DAOs are doing on the blockchain. And it's like, oh, you're known for that. Are you true to your brand? And you have to be, because you've already written the code. If you want to change the code, everyone will see. Everyone will see that you've changed your smart contract, and automatically, not in 10 years they will see. They'll see it instantly. And automatically someone will say, oh, they used to start out good, but now not anymore. So it has a much more immediate effect on your brand, because when you do something on the blockchain, it's written forever and ever, and people see it. And it's like, but it's really hard. You can't distract people with commercials. You can't distract people with other political stuff. And DAOs are so new that there is no current, it's unclear what their legal status is in the world. So talking about real life contracts, it's different. This space is so new that people don't know what to define them in the real world, because the DAO members could be in Indonesia, could be in Africa, could be in the US. They decide by themselves, and it's borderless. It's in the metaverse, what we call the metaverse. It's not even controlled by a platform. It's on the blockchain. No one controls the blockchain. So for the first time ever, we're seeing a bit like, I don't want to say zombie land, but you know, it's like it's a free world, and there's these rules, you follow them. If you don't, you die. You know, and you see these organizations, these decentralized organizations, they're coming together. They're like, this is how we're going to do it, and this is what we're going to be known for. And it's exciting. To me, it's exciting.
Well, that's decentralized autonomous organizations. I would like to have Catherine share a little bit about decentralized finance, because that's what you are. That's what Tezos is.
Well, actually, yeah, no, this is a fascinating conversation. Ruan, thank you for your insights, and thank you, Kai, for surfacing this question. Yeah, with Tezos, we initially started with the premise of on-chain governance, right? And when we talk about this whole topic of the panel, centralization, democratization, it's really a form of governance. And then what does it mean, right? Like when it comes to blockchain design. So we put a bet on proof of stake. We're like, okay, let's go with this blockchain design. And how do we govern? We want to make sure that this is, in terms of governance, everyone gets a say in terms of how you inject proposals into the blockchain protocol. And then it's community led first and foremost. And then as the blockchain evolves, it will evolve. It constantly upgrades itself. It's going to be a forkless design. So we had longevity in mind when the blockchain was designed as a community, and then it will evolve with the community. So as Ron said, there's no one that owns the blockchain per se, but we want to also preserve the value of, say, even NFTs that get minted on the Tezos blockchain. It still retains its value because you're not forking. So that's a form of governance that we practice. And in how it lends its application to, say, DAOs or like DeFi, for example, people will know that, hey, you know what? We can build whatever DAO protocol that we want and align people all over the world to it, join our cause. But whether it's, okay, creating a lending platform, borrowing platform, yield farm, whatever it is that's governed by a DAO, we want to make sure that the longevity of the blockchain is there and the community is not split when it comes to the foundation, the base of what blockchain is built on. Yeah, which is on-chain governance. Yeah.
Thank you. It seems to me that a lot of what do you call that, protocols on the blockchain with smart contracts, NFT, it is calling for a certain uh, element of discipline. It's like the DAO is set to be this way. It will be disciplined, or it will discipline you to follow this protocol, this rule, right? Because artists, usually creative people, not as disciplined, which is how they become more creative. They like to disrupt, break rules and all of this. But it's quite interesting that we are willingly being disciplined or entering these contracts, to discipline ourselves, to play by the rules. I feel this friction is very interesting, because for sure, artists do not want to be tied up, with things, right? But this part of it, they are willing to play the game. Which brings me actually, okay, probably this is my last question, and I want to give this question to Deti. It is about the function of galleries or art dealers in promoting artists, like connecting, networking with collectors, like doing all the work that they need to do to bring up the value of the art of the artist, to place the artist in institutions and things like that. Right now, artists on NFTs are doing all of this by themselves, and a lot of them that I speak to are telling me it's really tough. It's like 24 hours on Twitter. It's like I'm dying from just like being on Twitter. I have no time to really make the work. How do you see moving forward, galleries can finally work with artists, who work on NFTs, artists who work on NFTs, like can they reconcile, can they work together, and can they mutually benefit?
I think they can, but here's the thing. The idea of blockchain is to basically get rid of middlemen, right? So in this case, in the conservative art world, galleries are middlemen. So if you want to go into, say, work together with artists in the NFT world, then they need to, I believe they need to really, really understand the idea of blockchain itself. DAO is a really good one, you know. Maybe they should think about that. That's what I think. Because right now, what I see the auction houses and, well, a few galleries are doing are still that, being the middleman. And that just contradicts the whole idea of blockchain. I'm like, why? You know, I mean, I know that not only artists, but not many people are tech savvy, right? And since this technology is new, the terminologies are new, everything's new, everything sounds so technical right now. But soon it's going to be easier for everybody. It's easier for people to adopt. So I think, yeah, it all comes back to really understanding what it is. I know that even all of us now, we don't really know what it is yet and where it's going, right? So yeah, that's what I think about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't think about being a middleman anymore. You can do that in the real world, but in NFT world, I think you need to redefine. Yeah.
Anyway, what's a curator today, right? What's a galleries today? What's an auction house today? Auction houses are now also, for example, offering works on the primary market, no longer on secondary market. They are entering the domain of galleries, what galleries used to do or dealers used to do. And then museums also have been criticized for pandering to the influential and the rich and to the financial market, as in like the financial or the art marketplace, sorry. Yeah. So there's a lot of crossings, but somewhere we should be able to find purpose, like Ruan said, like this new generation. And I think Catherine also said we're not just interested to own things, but we want to own meaningful things. We want to be part of meaningful movements, right? And be connected, across. Okay. Any last words from any of you?
I was gonna say, yeah, that in terms of accelerating change, like blockchain has enabled that, right? Bringing communities together, giving voices to artists. The whole idea about middlemen and how does the traditional artwork, where does it stand in this ecosystem we're trying to build together? I like, for example, curation, right? Like you're a curator. I honestly enjoyed this panel so much that if you were to curate an exhibition, I would go because I just value your opinion, and I would be like, okay, Kai Hori is doing something, like curating an exhibition. I would so go because I value your opinion. I wouldn't be able to like curate art on my own. That's like, yeah, how do you say this? That's an interesting perspective and insight and opens my mind. So that's where I see like the art space going, like curators maybe get a wider base of clients as well that's borderless. So I'm really excited to see where the space goes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe the last words from me. I'm really excited personally because it's like internet in the mid 90s, or it's like saying, here's this new technology and this is what it can do. But the applications of what it can do were super early, like Kadeti said earlier, we're still in its infancy. We're not there yet. We define what is going to happen next. We get to set that, we get to choose. And I think that's exciting. If you had to explain internet to someone in 98, the best they could think about was email. They wouldn't dream about a social network. They wouldn't dream about WhatsApp. They wouldn't dream about all these other applications, meeting someone anonymously, memes. They wouldn't dream about all those things. They couldn't fathom it. The problem with the internet back then was that you couldn't always trust the system. Now with blockchain, a lot of us talk about what we call Web 3.0. Now you can trust the system. Now you just have to trust the people in the system. You know, you don't have to worry about the transaction or the rules. It's clear. It's in theory unbreakable, unhackable. Now you just have to know who you're buying it from. If they don't want to make themselves available, maybe they can go to a central place like a brand, a gallery, a museum, and the museum can vouch for them. And the reason why you can trust that museum or that brand or that entity, whatever that meta being is in the metaverse, is because you can see all the transactions because you trust the system. So for the first time in the digital world, you can trust the system. You could never do that before. Never, ever, ever. You couldn't trust, social media because they change. Platforms change. It's not up to you. You don't have a say unless you're a big, big investor. You know, you can't trust the platforms, but you can, for now, for the first time, you can move assets from platforms to platforms because you trust the system. You trust the central system, the decentralized system. So that I'm just very excited for the possibilities and what everyone is going to come up with and the new use cases of blockchain and NFTs.
Cool. Dirty?
What? Well,
Any more?
well, anyone interested in owning a fraction of a Picasso? 0.00 something? Let's do a DAO. Oh, well, I don't have anything. I don't know what else to say. I think there's a lot more to learn about this thing. I do encourage people to like read because this does need, yes, a lot of reading, like I said earlier. Yeah, that's all we can do right now. If you want to understand more about it, read, and if you can, go dive into it like I did.
Yes.
How I learned.
Yeah. And I think taking from what Ruan said, we now, or this generation, I think I'm talking about generation even like actually younger than me, obviously. I'm old actually. So when taking from what Ruan said, this new generation, you have the capability, the power, to make that change, to shape it, how you want that future to be. Talking about internet, I remember a time when the first time I ever got out of Singapore, Malaysia. I mean, before that, as I went only as far as Malaysia. So the first time I was on a scholarship, I was in Paris in 1994. Pre-internet days, life was so miserable. Like you want to go places, you literally open a paper map, and then you want to speak to people. There's no Google or whatever online to help you to learn language quickly. You want to look for a school or place. Everything is so manual. Now you not only have online resources, but you can make that resource. You can design that resource. The other thing I want to say, which coming from the curatorial perspective also, I am one of those curators that love to discover artists. Like the weirder, the better. The more, off center, the more I love it. And I will admit to everybody who's here, like I think there are a lot of artists here that I have curated humongous shows in institutions, not in just a small commercial gallery, in institutions where I found the artist on Facebook. Okay. I have done that before. Like I would go to Instagram and then Facebook and everything, and then I see this guy's work is so interesting. How come it's not being picked up? I do my CSI. I find out his email. Like a stalker. I'll stalk this guy. I'll like send an email, and then this artist would be like, "Wow, how do you know?" I mean, I just like I do that, and then I find the artist, and the artist could be from another country. For example, I've worked with an artist from Beijing, and I gave him a solo in Paris, you know, and I found him on Facebook, you know, and today he's quite a big artist, you know. So I love doing things like this.
Isn't Facebook blocked in China? How do you...
Well, the smart ones, they, you know, they use VPN, blah blah blah, you know, and then they're well connected. Anyway, my point is, NFT has allowed us to have a global conversation. You know, I believe that artists and collectors discovering and speaking to each other on NFT platform are meeting people they otherwise would never imagine, you know, they could meet. And they're talking about art in different languages, with different perspectives, different cultural background. Sometimes this background don't even matter anymore. It's like you meet someone from, let's say, South America, for example. Do you really care that this person is from South America? You just love the art. You want to talk about the art, right? Or you want to collect the art. You know, it breaks down even more barriers now. You know, the internet already helped us break that barrier down. Now this helps break it down even further. And for me, let's say from Singapore to buy a work from someone in Dubai, for example, I'm not talking about freight costs, how to frame, and then, you know, packaging and la la la, and then like the few $1,000s I have to pay the art handler and then come drill a hole, hang it on my wall. It's not even that anymore. You know, collectors are happy looking at images on their laptops, on their TV screens, on their phones. You know, so it's really changed. I think we need to look at all of this with a really open mind and open eyes. You know, and take it quite seriously, you know, even though it's quite fun. Actually, I feel the all the uncertainties about democratization, decentralization, uncertainties on cryptos, bitcoins, whatever it is, makes it all the more exciting, you know, because it is new territory and we all want to be part of it, right? You know, one day we will tell people that, you know, in 2020 during the lockdown, we were doing this, you know, like, so yeah. um I think that's it for our session. Thank you, everybody. There is a request from Art Moments that we want to do a screenshot. So if everyone here could turn on their cameras so that the people from Art Moments, the admin, could do a screenshot. Everybody, this this happens once. By the way, I should also mention that I'm proud that Art Moments is the first art fair, at least in Southeast Asia, to show NFTs in physical form. You know, like Art Moments, the first one, right? And not to make money, but a lot to do with education. You know, like sharing. So everybody else is shy. Cameras, cameras. No, okay. Alwan or Dennis, up to you. Please tell us if you've done the.
Okay, I think we're done with the pick.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. We have what I'm moderating one more conversation. I hope you will be there. I think it's about 1.5 weeks time. Uh, hope to see you there. Thank you and take care and see you soon. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Like Art Moments, the first one, right? And not to make money, but a lot to do with education. You know, like sharing. So everybody else is shy. Cameras, cameras. No, okay. Alwan or Dennis, up to you. Please tell us if you've done the.
Okay, I think we're done with the pick.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. We have what I'm moderating one more conversation. I hope you will be there. I think it's about 1.5 weeks time. Hope to see you there. Thank you and take care and see you soon. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.